Warning: do not attempt to perform any challenge or develop any mindset you are about to see. Viewer discretion is advised. We're back with another book, already on number 5, so we're off to a good start. And today we're going to be looking at Michael Jordan's I Can't Accept Not Trying. And I think that's a phrase we should all tell ourselves. And the point I really want to get across, you kind of get a general message or theme from each book you read. And this really looks to the start, the start Michael Jordan was at, right? Michael Jordan did not make his varsity basketball team when he tried out. We may all know of him as one of the all-time greats, but look where he started. Look at Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook in a college dorm room. Look at Steve Jobs with Apple computers in his garage. And the message to convey to you is look where you're at right now. We all have a garage. He was in a dorm room, but we all have a room we're living in. And Michael Jordan, he never even made the varsity team at that time. So where did he start at? On a basketball court, right? Things we all have. And we have images of people of how great they are and all the things they've done. But sometimes we forget about where they started. And there's a disconnect between where you're at right now and where the people you look up to are. And that's really the message I want you to remember, is that where everyone starts, you're at right now. And just remember that. So we'll go through, and I'm sure there's some points that are going to correlate with this. But before I get into the book talk and read some excerpts, I just wanted to emphasize that whatever you want to do in life, go after it. If you think of ideas and you try and think of ways to grow, I'm sure you have a million ideas in your head. And choose one that means something to you, that you would enjoy doing. Whether or not you get to the dream goal, working towards it is more than enough, because you believe in the idea and you love it. And look at people around you. Maybe they haven't told you. Maybe you need to reach out and ask people. But time and time again, people have had dreams, ideas, and goals, and they let those dreams die. And that's the trap I don't want to fall in myself. And while I'm on my journey, I want to hopefully help you guys not fall to that trap, because it happens all around you. People have some idea, but they get deterred by things that may be hard. For example, the stock market. That's a great example of how people view it as confusing, especially when they get into day trading, options trading. You start talking about puts or calls, different types of index funds, all these different terms. If you've never heard them, it could sound mind-boggling. And that doesn't mean you don't understand it. It's not that it's some complex idea all these other people can understand, and you cannot understand it. It's just that you have to learn it. It's like learning the English or whatever language you learned when you were younger. That would have seemed like a big deal, but you didn't not do it. You just chipped away at it, and look where it got you. So that's one thing. It's never be deterred by how hard something may be. If you're going to start a business and you start looking at taxes and insurance, and maybe you're doing an LLC, some corporation, that task can seem daunting when you've never been involved in something like that. But don't let that stop you from pursuing the business you want. Just look at it as something you need to learn. And once you learn it, you're going to be set, right? So there's a lot of deterrence. And Michael Jordan, his deterrent may not have been so much that it was complicated. He had a lot to learn with basketball. But in high school, his biggest deterrent was not making the team. It was not having access to what he wanted or what he thought he wanted at that time. And how easily could he have been deterred by what someone else said about him? You know, everyone around you, well, hopefully not. There's going to be some people around you who support you, and there's going to be some people around you or on the internet who don't support you and shut your ideas down. And don't take it personally. Look at it as their opinion. Everyone is going to have a different opinion about something. When I think of an idea and I find someone who disagrees with me, I like to pick their brain if they don't agree with my idea to the reasons why they don't agree with it so that I can fix them. Because the person who likes certain things I do, that reinforces the certain things I do. But maybe the rest of the things I do, someone else doesn't like, I can improve on it. So what about if in Michael Jordan's case, he did not make the team because the coach did not like certain things about him? His parents could have loved how he played. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the people who don't, and you go and ask, why did I not make the team? What are the things I could improve on? Are you going to get that much better? So it's a mindset switch. It's really easy to get put down, especially if it's by people you care about who are saying bad things about the things you believe in. And the mindset switch is never to look at something as a deterrent. Look at it as an opportunity to grow and improve. And we all know the haters out there, people who just hate for whatever reason. Could you still learn from the things they point out when they're trying to point out every little micro detail of what's wrong with you? They're the ones who are going to help you grow even more than the people who just agree with you, as long as you have that mindset of growth and not a defensive, you're getting attacked and now you're trying to hide away or stop doing what you're doing. And real quick on when people talk about you, sometimes there's people who get mad anytime you want to tell them something, whether it's good or bad. You have the right intention, but they just get triggered or mad. And what I like to say is that if I'm telling you something, or if someone tells you something, it's either a fact or it's made up. Now, if it's a fact and you don't like it, then you probably need to change, right? And if it's made up, then why are you getting mad? So the whole idea is that you should never be getting mad when someone tells you something. There's no reason to get mad. Because if someone tells me something and it's a fact and I'm getting mad, why would I be getting mad about that fact? If it's something that upsets me, that's so absurd, then I probably want to try and change that fact if I don't like it, right? So there's no reason to get mad. And if someone says something to me that's made up, then why am I going to get mad? It's all made up. It's not true anyways. So that's just a little way of thinking on that. But the main point is never be deterred to chase your dreams, because they can easily slip away. And anyone you choose to look at, trace it back to their start and see where they're at. Was it in a dorm room? Was it on the basketball court? Was it in a garage? And look where you're at right now. An idea that you may think will never get anywhere, right? You may think, how could this ever get big? But look back to their ideas when it was at its very early stages. And could they have said the same thing about themselves? They could have. But from the last book we read, The Rare Breed is going to take that idea and run. So if you've been blessed with an idea in your head that you want to pursue and you believe in, and you don't take it where it wants to go, watch out, because a rare breed will come in and take that idea to the moon. And I don't want you to be 10 years ahead, 10 years in the future, and find out someone else grew that idea up when you could have been growing it for 10 years. This is a lot shorter book than most. It's only 35, 38 pages, 36 pages. But it's written by Michael Jordan himself and his points. And I'm going to read through. I didn't write any down for this book. Usually I do it in my laptop because they're hundreds of pages. And I thought this would be a good book because I feel like a lot of people could connect with Michael Jordan. So many people know Michael Jordan, and understanding his story of how great he became just from his relentlessness, and then rewinding back to his start when he didn't even make a team, and think how many people don't make something a point in their life and they just stop and they never push through. So just that message alone, that image of him, is enough to read this. So we'll read through a couple points, and I'll just show you. I'll flip open and I'll read a line, and it's going to be a pretty good excerpt. This one will be a little longer than the rest, probably, but it's a good point. And this is on the first page. I always had the ultimate goal of being the best, but I approached everything step by step. That's why I wasn't afraid to go to the University of North Carolina after high school. Everyone told me I shouldn't go because I wouldn't be able to play at that level. They said I should go to the Air Force Academy because then I would have a job when I finished college. Everyone had a different agenda for me, but I had my own. Remember what I was saying about some people supporting you and some people seeing a different image? Well, same thing with your goals. I've talked about this in another book, but some people don't always see your image. It's like Henry Ford when he said, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a better horse, when he was out there trying to make a car, right? So if you're trying to be a basketball star or start your own business, some people may not see what you're seeing. They're going to tell you to take the safer route, take the route they took, because that's what they know. It's what they think is true. But once again, if you've been blessed with an idea that you believe in and you're willing to work towards, and working towards it alone is enough to fulfill you, then never look at that as a deterrent. You can still ask them, why would you tell me to take the safe route? What are you concerned about? And maybe they tell you, the only thing I'm concerned about is your financial status or stability. So if that's the only thing they're worried about, maybe you go, hey, if that's a concern for you, I should think about that as a possible concern in my life. Okay, I'm working towards my goal, but I also have this job that will give me enough money for my life and my family. Now, were you able to learn from that person while you can still pursue your goal? Exactly. You took their concerns into account because it's something you may not have thought of, and it secures your path that much more. So, look at everything as a learning opportunity. Figure out why they wouldn't do it. Take that into account to make your path that much stronger. So that was page 2. Page 5. Take those small steps. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of frustration. Where would your confidence come from if the only measure of success was becoming a doctor? If you tried as hard as you could and didn't become a doctor, would that mean your whole life was a failure? Of course not, right? And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. We'll use the doctor, for example, sits in that book. If that's your end goal to become a doctor, same thing. You could have people saying things against you. It's too hard. It's too long. But if you truly care about that idea, have those values, sacrifice that part of your life for the betterment of the world, why wouldn't you want to work towards it? Because at that point, it doesn't matter. Obviously, it matters to you if you get it. But hypothetically, if you did not get to that end goal, you working towards that your whole life would mean a whole lot more than you just giving up on the goal and being a couch potato, right? Sitting on the couch your whole life watching movies versus, hey, I'm working towards being a doctor. That's what I've always wanted to do. You're going to find fulfillment and meaning because that's what you care about. You don't care about eating the potatoes, watching the TV. You care about what it takes to become a doctor, the type of person you would have to be to even try and work towards that. So I know we talk about, everyone always talks about push towards what you want, your goals, your dreams, don't give up. And you need that foundation to actually pursue something, but never forget the other side of the spectrum and that whether or not you get there, the journey is what matters. It's the journey, man. You know, that's what they all say, but it's the truth. So, and the reason it's the truth is because that can become its own deterrent. If you're halfway down your path and you go, hey, this is never going to happen, that can be a deterrent to just give up. But if you tell yourself, whether or not it happens, I'm going to work towards this goal with my one life because that's what I believe in and care about. That's what matters. Everything's a deterrent. Everything can be a deterrent. It's all a mindset. You know, and it's different for each person. Some people, I'm sure you know, can let the most minor inconveniences throw them off the rails. And that should raise a red flag. Well, what do you let get to you versus what do you look at as an opportunity for growth? Do you get mad when something falls over? Or do you look at that as an opportunity to work on your composure or cleaning skills, right? Not everyone is going to be the greatest salesman or the greatest basketball player, but you can still be considered one of the best and you can still be considered a success. Success can be our own definition. And it kind of goes along with the last point we just said. Remember, you may not fully get to the goal you want, that specific goal. But what if your goal's comparing yourself to others? You may not be Michael Jordan, but can you be one of the greats? Yeah. But the big thing here is success. See, this is a lot of repetition, but your success is in the journey. You persevering and actually being one of the few people to push through relentlessly year after year for something you believe in and sticking true to your values. It seems like that's more of a rarity nowadays than not. When it should be a no-brainer, work towards what you want, right? Don't settle for anything less than what you believe in. Page 8. I never looked at the consequences of missing a big shot. Why? Because when you think about the consequences, you always think of a negative result. And this is a reason when people are negative to look at that as an opportunity for growth. Because I'm I'm a realist. I like to look at things in reality. They talk about optimists who say, hey, your business or your goal, you need to just be positive about it. If that works for you, great. But I'm a realist in that with a growth mindset, I'm going to look at all the good things that could happen. And I'm going to look at all the bad things that can happen. Because by looking at all the bad things, the negative things, you're able to grow from it. But like he's saying, he never looked at the consequences of missing a big shot. So you never want to get caught up in looking at the negatives. With basketball, yeah, if you miss a shot, maybe you lose. Maybe you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And I guess like in that case, it's a little different because during a performance, you've already trained for that day. You just need to go for it at that point. But more so in life, if you're thinking of, I'm thinking bigger scale, pursue a goal or change a job or start a business, go into the stock market, whatever it may be, look at the consequences. Look at what's going to happen if you don't get there. Maybe it's, I'm just saying to do that so you have a more secure path. So if the negative thoughts concerning you getting a new job is that you may not have enough money. You may be worried about, hey, do I have enough money to pay rent, this or that? Well, if you understand that's a concern, maybe you save up money and now you have extra cash, so it's not a concern. You always want to take them into account. You don't have to look at the negatives as much. Like during a game, he's saying he's not looking at the consequences of missing a shot. Personally, me, I'll look at the consequences so that I can solidify where I'm at right now, so that doesn't happen. But the biggest thing is not to focus on them and not to let those deter you. I guess that's the biggest thing. Never let a consequence deter you. Well, that sounds pretty bad. I mean, depending what the consequence is. But if it's from pursuing a goal, for example, if I want to pursue a dream goal, but I'm worried you might go broke, or you're worried you might lose a friendship or this or that, and you sacrifice your dream, then that's truly up for you to decide. Yeah, that is. And that's why I think it is important to look at the consequences. And I guess that's where it comes down to. Some consequences may deter you, but a better way of putting it is that I wouldn't let something deter you just because it's a negative consequence. Now, depending what the consequence is, maybe you do let it deter you. What if a consequence of trying to pursue a stunt could get you killed or injured? Maybe now it's not, even though it's something you really dream of, it's not worth the price. And that's for you to decide. But just because you can make a list of consequences for anything, a list of negatives. Some people can be negative about a sunny day, right? Because now they're getting sunburned. So the big picture is, don't let something deter you just because it's a consequence in life, but take it into account, and it's up for you to realize whether or not it's worth it. And when you're deciding if it's worth it, I would look into your future and see if it's worth it 5 years later if you look back and haven't done it. Because I feel like people do that, and that's why it gets too blown out of proportion, because how many people give up on their dreams, and the reason it's not worth it is because it's hard. Oh, it's hard. I could be hanging out with my friends, or I could be watching a movie, so I'm not going to work towards my goal. And then they decided that's not worth it for them. And that's the choice they decided to make. So if it's always up to you, I mean, we all know it's up to us. I guess the biggest piece of advice from all this I could give then is probably the mindset switch. And it's that we're right. Looking at it that way, you always have the choice to what you want to sacrifice in your life and how far or how not far you want to go. That's up to you. But when other people are influencing your life, your friends, your family, people you look up to and care about you who say to do it this way or that way, I would never let them sway you. I would look at everything as an open mind. If you decide to do something, anything anyone says, whether it's positive or negative, you look at it as growth. You're on your track. Anything anyone says, how do I grow from it? So, and if you decide not to do something, then that's on you to decide not to do it. It's your sacrifice for doing it or not doing it. But the quote I like, I've said it before, we must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And the difference is that the pain from discipline weighs ounces, while the pain from regret weighs tons. I'm sure that's spoken by many people. But when you're deciding whether or not you should sacrifice for doing something or not doing something, it's going to hurt either way, but it's going to hurt a lot worse. If you fast forward 5 years and you look back and say, man, I should have given my life and worked towards something I believed in, that I've always dreamed about, but instead I gave that up for a sedentary lifestyle. So it's always fine to change goals, move your life around, but to give up. Read Man's Search for Meaning. That's the first book we went over. Find your meaning to keep pushing through life when stuff gets hard. Because life's always going to be hard. If you haven't realized that by now, maybe it's not for you. It is for me. There's always going to be something hard going on. So would I rather have something be tough, working towards something I believe in, or something be tough, living a life I don't really want to live? So, Michael Jordan, cool dude. I would say cool, amazing story, just like a lot of these great people you look up to. And remember, the equivalent to where they started at, a lot of these people, is the equivalent to where you're at right now. Wherever you're sitting or living, whatever your current situation is, you could look back 10 years later, and this book could be written by you. So, Michael Jordan's I can't accept not trying. And tell yourself that. I can't accept not trying.